Is pay-to-play hurting U.S. soccer? Is winning the only thing that matters? The United Soccer Coaches Week 7 polls are out for both men and women. We'll break it down here this morning. That and more coming up next on Inside the Game.
Welcome to Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Now, here are your hosts, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wangler.
Welcome back here into Inside the Game here on this Wednesday morning, number 175 here this morning. Jonathan Turner alongside Nathan Wenger, Ryan Glinsky, our producer. And it is another good episode that I think we have on tap here today. We're going to dive into some pretty interesting topics here as a result of some recent quotes coming from around the United States. I would even say argue the globe, just because of Jurgen Klopp and what he has been known for. But the first question of the day will be not question of the day, but the first question we'll have to ask or start to answer is pay-to-play hurting U.S. soccer? We will dive into that this morning. Is winning the only thing that matters? We'll also dive into that this morning as well. United Soccer Coaches Week 7 polls are out, and we'll break down who's rising, who's falling in that. All of that and more here this morning on Inside the Game. I was not here yesterday. I was out at Oak University handling some technical upgrades to our production for our upcoming basketball season. We'll continue to do that here leading up to our first broadcast on October the 30th. But before we do anything in regards to the show here this morning, I was not here yesterday. You guys had a chance to talk about World Cup ticket prices is something that was discussed yesterday. And I'm not really sure kind of to what measure, because I didn't have a chance to watch the show, to what you guys really discussed about it. I do know that obviously prices came out and were released in regards to a number of the stadiums here in the U.S. For the World Cup, and they seem to be pretty astronomical. I'm like going to Disney World.
Well, it's interesting because the graphic that we showed the other day, initially it showed, so these are finals tickets. So it's important to keep in mind that these are not like group stage tickets, but still, I mean, just the thought of spending $50,000 on a single sporting ticket to go to anything. No, I don't ever foresee myself being in a situation like that. But yeah, I mean, just take a look at some of those numbers. I mean, just over $3,000. That's the best deal that you're going to find at a finals game in the 2026 World Cup. Now, in terms of the group stage, I actually said my number yesterday was right around. It's actually the same as what Ryan was saying. He said about 1,500. I agreed with that. I'm like anywhere from like thinking 1,500, maybe $2,000 if I absolutely had to go that far. But that's everything included. That's not just the ticket. So like that is just one number in front of you. Now you got to factor in, like I said, like the gas, the food, the everything else that you have going on. So we were building like our perfect scenarios of how this would go down in our heads, which I just don't. It's always going to end up being more expensive than what you think. But if there's, group stage tickets are fine. But yeah, the finals, I don't know what kind of people are going to watch that game. I would like to meet some of those people because they're probably in a pretty high tax bracket. They probably know some people who know some people, but yeah, no way. In no world would I be able to afford any of those tickets. There's simply no way.
First off, hopefully we'll have press passes. This will be not an issue for me. And media credentials. We're still working on that, obviously, as we speak. But yeah, I mean, first things first, if you're talking about money as no object, and you have FU money, because that's what you would need to have in order to really pull this off, is FU money. I think then it doesn't necessarily matter what the ticket prices are. If you are have a love for this game, then you'll find any way to get in there. And so I don't, as much as I love this game, I don't have FU money. And so, therefore, my FU is back to the stadium.
Start gambling.
To whoever's charging these outrageous fees, because it actually goes hand in hand with what we were about to discuss this morning with pay to play. Okay. Soccer, just like all the other sports, big money, right? There's big
Yeah.
money to be made in these sports at all levels, not just the highest levels, but even the lowest levels. And so when you think about all that, it plays into this, I mean, if you're a mom or a dad, right, and you have a young kid that you want to take, right, to go watch the playoffs, like over at Comerica Park here that were yesterday, right?
What a waste of money.
You know,
for yesterday.
and obviously we know the Tigers lost last night to the Mariners 8-4, and that now they're down a game with one. They have to win tonight, or else their playoffs are over with. But if I look at like just like that whole mindset, wanting to take your child to watch a game. There's nothing more, to be fair, more American than mom and dad, or even dad taking son, right, to go watch a baseball game. Now, baseball playoff game, like, holy crap, that'd be huge. What does that cost? It doesn't cost $50,000, okay? Maybe it costs a couple $100 to go get tickets. Maybe it's $400 or $500. That's still outrageous, but that's a memory that can be had. Right?
Mhm.
We haven't had a World Cup here in the United States since 1994 for the men's side, the 1999 for the women's side. I do believe
Wasn't even born.
I do believe during the early 2000s, because of a thing that happened over in China, they actually ended up playing the World Cup here for women's as well, somewhere in 2005, 2006. Anyway, somewhere a little bit later, because of some sickness, and I think there was some kind of a disease, obviously, over in China when it happened. But again, this is off memory, so maybe I'm wrong, Ryan. Take a look at that. But we're talking about this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and you've literally outpriced everybody. Only people who live in Qatar, and on Rodeo Drive in California could pay for this. That seems insane to me. And so, yeah, I guess we get to watch it from our living rooms. Right? What are you looking at, Ryan? Do you find it?
That is right. You were right. A disease prevented China from hosting the 2003 Women's World Cup. They had to move it to the United States as a safety precaution. Man, China, get your disease under control. Also had COVID too.
Yeah. Anyways, so it's insane. It's terrible. Shame. Again, you're telling me you can't sell these tickets for $300 and still make a great amount of money. I find that hard to believe. FIFA made their money in the rights deal. They made all their money when they sold the rights to Fox and to whoever else. That was all. That's their big money. Whatever. Yeah. So.
Yep. But they're going to find a way to squeeze people for every single dollar that they can. And I mean, we've seen this in American sports. We see it at the professional ranks now. I even think about, we don't even have to go to the World Cup. I mean, let's just think about Detroit sports teams in general. Like, the only team I'm going to be able to see at a relatively cheap price is the Tigers, because they have 3,000 of them every summer. You're going to be able to find a Wednesday or a Thursday or even a Friday night game and be able to sneak in there for an affordable price. Wings games, I don't know. Lions games, hell no. There's no way I'm going to be able to afford a ticket. There's no way, unless I go to a road game somewhere. No way. And they're pricing fans out left and right. We're seeing it happen all over the place, and it's about meeting the bottom line, but it's also realizing, just how far can you push that ticket? Because we also see that, even at places, even like the Whitecaps, who hosted the Party Animals this year. They're an offshoot of the Savannah Bananas. They're still associated with that team. I mean, everything went up. Everything went up sky high because they realized they can charge it and they can still get their money. But it's sad, it's depressing, it's everything else. I mean, the nice thing is the TVs we have nowadays are actually so nice that if they're big enough and you got good surround sound, it kind of feels like you're there anyways. But nothing will ever replace being in person. And I hate that we're going to talk about pay to play here in a little bit, but the almighty dollar, I feel like, is taking away from a lot of like formative experiences that I just don't feel like kids are going to have anymore, because everything's just too goddamn expensive, as we've talked about. And this is just another example.
I've already said this. I've already said this before, that my preferred ticket is the one that puts me right in front of my own TV. I've already said that, and it's not because I don't like. I mean, like when we went to the U.S. men's national team game in Columbus and watched them versus Japan. Right. I mean, it was an exciting thing, and we took a ton of pictures. It was great. But again, the things that
you have to admit, nothing is better than being in person.
I'm sorry?
There's nothing better than being in person. You have to admit.
I gotta disagree
again,
with
I
that.
think,
Depends where you're
Really?
sitting. I mean, all right. If you're being completely honest, if you are sitting in the nosebleeds of Comerica Park, I would much rather just be at home. I'd much rather just
No.
sit there. Yeah,
For a
100%.
playoff game?
Like if I'm
Whoa, hold on.
No.
Okay, we're talking playoff game.
yeah, we're talking. Okay, if we're
Okay,
talking playoffs, that's different.
I
but
think that's important to say.
Oh,
Anywhere in the
okay. All right,
stadium,
all right,
I
okay.
think that to argue
Oh,
that you could
okay.
be standing room only on the concourse, sitting in a bar in the stadium, would probably still be a great
ra-
experience.
I'd
So-
rather sit in a bar for a playoff game than staying on the concourse. If I'm being completely honest, I'd rather be in a bar in downtown Detroit. That's
Okay.
way better,
Okay,
in my opinion. But
that's fair. But yeah, you're still out and about though. Like
if I'm in a regular,
yeah, I mean, I guess
season
you're not
game and
technically
and I have
at
a
the
chance
game,
to sit
but
in the nosebleeds of Comerica Park or sit at home, I'm sitting at home, and the Tigers game would just be my background noise while I doom scroll TikTok. That's literally what I would do.
I think it depends on the game. If we're talking, I don't know, a playoff game, hell no, I'm going to be in the environment.
Well,
and
again,
it's just
everybody's a little different, right? Because again, if
Right.
we're talking about you have to drive 3 hours to go to Detroit to watch a game, and so for you, if you're going to drive 3 hours, pay the ticket price, you're going to go there for the right opponent, and so you're not going to go there to go watch the shitty White Sox, right? Not right now.
I mean, I would.
Oh,
I
I would.
No, I mean, come on, really? You're telling me that you could watch the White Sox at home, and you could you're gonna drive all the way to Comerica Park?
I just don't get
sit
many
in nosebleeds
opportunities
and
to
get
be a
excited
fan, so
about
maybe
it to
that's
go watch
just
the
me.
White Sox.
Maybe that's just me. I don't get many opportunities to be a fan, so maybe
But
that's just me.
That's fair.
I just-
Okay,
I like
I understand that, but I'm saying if Nate,
No.
if you had a
Yes.
choice to pick the best
Yeah.
opponent, you would go. If you're looking at the calendar
yeah,
and you have
well,
a game to
obviously,
go,
Yeah,
you're not picking the
Right.
White Sox.
yeah.
You're
Well,
picking the
probably
Yankees.
not.
You're picking maybe I don't know, maybe the
Right.
Dodgers, right? You're picking another opponent possibly, and so
Yeah.
that's my only perspective is that okay? And if I'm going to a Lions game, I'm not just picking any old game. I'm trying to find a game where I can go and enjoy the environment, but also enjoy the opponent. And so watching like a Green Bay Packers or even a Chicago Bears, even though they're not the greatest, the Bears is a good rivalry, right? Watching Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Hey, watching a Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, right? You start, but obviously then ticket prices go up. If you're going to go watch a Pistons game, you might want to go watch the Lakers and see LeBron James, right? You might want to go, hey, Steph Curry and Golden State Warriors. Those are big ticket games. And if you can get in there for that, why wouldn't you want to go?
So I literally just did what you just explained. Is I literally did that last year. I went to go see Steph Curry play in person, and again, that was from the nosebleeds. And it's really, I don't know, it really was not worth it to watch Steph Curry. I mean, I guess I could say to down the year, well, kids, I got a chance to see Steph Curry in person from the nosebleeds. It really isn't that much of a flex, but it depends on the
You
situation.
got to see one of the greatest
What do you mean it's
players
not
of
a
all
flex?
time
I mean,
in person.
It's not
Nate-
a flex at all. I
Nate
Oh,
saw him from the
mentioned just the other day he
nosebleeds.
never once saw Michael Jordan play in person.
Neither did I.
So,
I
but no, but
wasn't
I mean,
even
but
born.
Nate grew up in a time period in which again that this man played.
I'm gonna tell. Here's.
I was
here's me
alive for like 2 years.
Oh, was it
When
two?
did
Okay, my
MJ
bad.
retire
All right, that was just
So,
me then.
specifically, I go to baseball games for
You
the
dick.
social aspect. I actually don't even watch the games. Like I am just there on the Pepsi porch or whatever it is at Comerica Park, and I go to regular season games. Playoff games, that's a little bit different. If we put playoffs in front of it, that's different. If I were to go to a Lions game, that's different because I'm actually watching, because I actually enjoy watching football. Baseball is just a social thing for me. NBA basketball doesn't move the needle for me, really. Again, you put playoffs in front of it, it's different. I'm there for the social aspect of being there, and I do not think Little Caesars Arena is a great arena to watch basketball. That's just me. Hockey, though, I am there, and my family goes, my dad just continues to buy me tall boys. So I'm sitting there buzzed, just watching hockey, just seeing hits and hits and hits. The Red Wings aren't even that good, but it's really fun for me. Soccer is different because I have a massive, massive love for soccer. And then when it comes to college sports, especially when it comes to U of M, that's different where I'd much rather be there. And then soccer, I'd much rather be there. But when it comes to MLB baseball, again, if you put playoffs in front of it, that's completely different. But a regular season game, I'm there for the social aspect. I'm a very social person. Again, I love just being on the Pepsi porch, just hanging out with my buddies and meeting new people. And then NBA, I'm just there with my friends. Again, same thing. We're we're just, having fun, making fun of each other while we watch the Pistons. But NFL, different because, I enjoy football a lot. But again, MLB, NBA, I'm just there for the social experience. That's all I'm there for.
Well, I've decided to remortgage both of my houses in Florida to go watch the World Cup. So,
Hey man, whatever happens. I will say this though. I will say this though. In all the environments that I've been in Ford Field, I've been to Comerica Park, as I mentioned, I've been to LCA, I've been to for hockey and basketball, and I've been to the Big House for a night game. I've been to Chrysler for a Big Ten game. Nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, beats the World Cup qualifying experience that I had in Columbus in 2022. So January of 2022. Nothing will beat that El Salvador versus United States men's national team 1-0 Anthony Robinson goal game in terms of environment and atmosphere. And I've been to lots, but nothing beats that. And I think if you put playoffs in front of it, again, that's kind of a playoff atmosphere, I would absolutely go to it because nothing, and I mean nothing, has come close to that World Cup qualifying experience that I had.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
When we come back here from break, we're going to dive into the pay-to-play here in the United States. Jurgen Klopp has a quote. We'll dive into that and more. You're watching number 175 here on this Wednesday morning.
An all-out battle of skill, passion, and determination. The NISA Pro Cup, presented by the National Soccer Network. The stage is set. 10 teams, 8 days, 1 trophy. Every moment exclusively on Roku TV. It all kicks off October 13th on the National Soccer Network.
Welcome back here into Inside the Game on this Wednesday morning. Jonathan Turner here in our Shelby Township studios here in Michigan. Nathan Wengler out in Grand Rapids. He's got some new digs.
Do have some new digs. It's obviously you guys see part of it, but it's a new place over here on the northeast side of Grand Rapids. Very old community. Woo! Very old community. But no, it's a nice little spot, man. It's be able to dress it up nice, get me a little backdrop, make it look cool, and away we go. So it's last baseball season's been weird, kind of sometimes you go through housing transitions, and especially in 2025, there's a lot of people that I know that are just sort of, the default is to go home, for the meantime while you figure this stuff out. And especially when you get into segments of the year, like especially with broadcasters, if you do anything baseball, when you get into summer, if you have any big projects or anything, you're thinking it will be on the back burner. Like you got to wait until September, October to do anything else in life because it just ain't going to happen. So I was kind of in this weird in-between phase, but we got through it. Now we're in a new place. So a lot of potential in this space. So I'm excited about what this might look like here coming up. So,
just to clarify, when you said an old part of town, you weren't like referring to ageism. You were just referring to it's an older, you're like
older
old people, right?
Yeah, I mean a little mix. There's some old people around, but not quite a retirement community yet. Not just yet.
It's not an assisted living facility there, Nathan Wenger.
I don't have a
Make
golf
sure.
cart.
I
I'm
know
driving
in
around
my
anywhere.
I'm way older than you. I just want to make sure that we specified that you are not in assisted living right now.
Yeah. Well, I have a place to recommend if you need one. I got one for you.
Let's dive into pay for play, and is pay to play hurting U.S. soccer? Let's take a look at what Jurgen Klopp here had to say. Youth football can be expensive, so that makes no sense at all to get the best talent. We all know the best players in the world aren't coming from the richest areas. That's the situation here. So many kids play football, but to get the right training and education at different stages, it makes sense that it's free. It's a long-term project issue for me personally, and that's all the things we want to go for. So,
Who wants to go first?
yeah, I'll dive into this. I think this is it's a great conversation. We've talked about this before on this show about pay to play and about how prohibitive it is for us to find the best talent. Okay, and so and I think this also goes to socioeconomic issues as well, and it's a reason why the disconnect between inner cities and resources is truly there. It's not just. I mean, growing up in an affluent area of Michigan, like I did here growing up, I had access to a lot of things, education being one of them, and I was educated. My parents were educated about access to things, access to extracurricular activities, access to resources to provide tutoring, you name it. And how was that made easier? Well, it was made easier because, you had access to a mailbox, you had access to internet, you had access to all these things. And so when you get into less affluent areas in this country where there's socioeconomic issues, where you don't have internet, you don't have access to a mailbox. I mean, and those are real things that I don't think we even talk a lot about, but that's a true thing. And there's a reason why football and basketball thrive. It's because they're not prohibitive to kids in inner city, in areas where there's socioeconomic issues. You can go grab a football and go start playing football with your buddies, and it's provided by the school. And traditionally, the best football schools here in Michigan are the ones that are located in downtown Detroit, right? And so Cass Tech, let's be honest, Cass Tech has put out a ton of NFL players. A ton.
The best talent,
Yep.
the best football team's not always in.
I didn't say the best
Detroit.
team. I said the best football players.
Detroit. Yeah, Detroit has the most active NFL players in the country.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so again,
Yeah.
when you think about that, well, how is that possible? Because they don't necessarily have access to what, I don't know, Grand Rapids Central Catholic might have or whatever. I mean, how is that possible? It's because those specific areas have created an area, the space for players to thrive on the football field. Because again, it doesn't require mom and dad with millions of dollars to participate in that sport. And that's the biggest thing. Again, NBA. I can go out to any park in this country with a basketball and start playing. And again, if you think about the inner cities of this country, that is where the basketball environment thrives. It thrives in those inner city environments. And what do you get? You get the best. I mean, LeBron James came from Cleveland. I know he went through
Akron.
private school, Akron, Cleveland area, right? And so I know that he went to a private school.
Trust me,
for
Akron
He
years.
went to a
great.
private school.
But I think that was based on, I don't know if his parents came from a wealthier environment. I don't think.
No,
yeah, so,
private schools can find a way to get you in the door. if
So I
you're good
mean,
enough.
so those, but again,
Yeah.
But again, it was not a money. It was a lack of money that was he was still able to be successful. Name me a player on the U.S. men's national team when it comes to being in the United States that comes from a lack of money.
The only one that I can think of off the top of my head was Clint Dempsey.
Absolutely.
And that was only because his sister passed away.
Hope Solo, by the way, on the women's side, had no money.
Yeah.
She talked about her dad lived in the woods and homeless.
But yeah, speaking of Clint Dempsey, I just want to touch on this real quick. His parents actually had to give up on soccer for him because his sister was better and older at tennis. She was better at tennis than he was at soccer. And then his sister unexpectedly passed away. And they were like, well, Clint, you can play soccer again. So that's why Clint always, the famous quote says, "You don't know where I'm from, dog. That's where that comes from, somewhere in Texas in the trailer park. But yeah, not the only, again, on that quote again, the only clap, I didn't put it in because I didn't think it was necessary. Pause, by the way. He said that Kaká was the only rich soccer player that he can think of that was rich before he became a professional soccer player was Kaká from Brazil. He said that's the only one that he can think of. And thinking of the U.S. men's national team, I mean, Pulisic, Reyna, they came from, I would say, good backgrounds. I think Tyler, but that's the only ones I can think of.
Yeah, Pulisic, I don't think Pulisic was rich. I think Pulisic's parents made a lot of sacrifices for him to go off and play. I think that's an important factor. I think before, and I know you want to get into this, and I think we absolutely here. Give me 1 second. I think it's important to state the following when it comes to all this, is that again, that soccer, just like all sports, is business. It's big business. And so you need money to make money, right? And so there's that part of this, and so I think by stating that, you can go ahead, Nick, and I know you have a couple. I'm sorry, Nate. Wow, geez, my gosh, Nate.
How many episodes in? Okay, you were talking about, and I love the point that you made a little bit earlier about Tech and where the talent really comes from, because it does. In the city of Detroit itself, and those sports has separated itself from the rest of the country. Like I said, more active players in the NFL right now that are from the city of Detroit than any other city in the United States. And again, that tracks everywhere you go. The difference in my mind comes down to what we're prioritizing. And I think when you talk about high school specifically, we have all of these different leagues. We have these clubs. We have these teams where you pay these ridiculous fees just to get in the door, let alone not even play, just to get in. In soccer, I feel like, again, from my limited perspective and the limited amount of time I've been in here, your pocketbooks really decide how far you go sometimes, because we don't prioritize the high school game. They don't have the same access to resources. They don't have the same access to quality coaching. And the kid whose parents or parent, I think that's also something that's important to mention, because not everybody comes from a two-parent household. I consider myself very blessed that I've had that ability. There's a growing number of kids that don't have two. That's where they're going to go play. They're going to go play at the high school team because that's the available option. But it's not prioritized. It's not looked at. It's not scouted nearly as heavy as a lot of these other specialized leagues where, again, you have to have a certain amount of financial availability to be involved in those leagues. That, in my mind, is what systematically is wrong with this entire process, because you have to have a baseline amount of money if you want to go anywhere and not get buried along with the rest of the mix. But when you look at the soccer culture in the United States, there's a park not far from my house here, Riverside Park. You talked about it on an earlier episode. We were probably only 20 episodes in. We were talking about the same exact thing. And you said, if you want to know if there's a culture of playing soccer in the United States or just around the sport in general, go to a local park. Okay, just go to a local park on a weekend night that has a big open field and see if there's soccer being played there. There is. There's like 3 open fields. There's people all over the place. People are playing. I remember in high school. Now this is obviously football. This is different, but it goes back to what we're talking about, because I went to Grand Rapids West Catholic. We had very nice facilities. We had nice facilities. We had a lot of former Grand Valley State football players who were coaches at our school who got us some really nice stuff. I mean, like, not bad for a little school of 600 kids. And so we had the facilities, we had the coaching, we had coaches who won national championships, who played at the Division I level. Our tight end coach played with Antonio Brown. Our offensive line coach played with a guy who went on to go win like one of the best offensive linemen in Division I at Wisconsin. Like, we had coaches and we had all these things. And so we won a lot of championships and we won a lot of things. There's one school that I remember playing every single year. They had the best athletes of any school that we played, period. End of story. Goodbye. See you later. They didn't win a game for 4 years. Grand Rapids Union High School. Now, to those of you who might not know, Union has a reputation of not winning football games. It's been a long, long time. Why? No money, no coaching, no access to resources, not a very good education. A lot of times don't even have transportation to get to the practices. But when I actually stand toe to toe with these guys, like if this kid had any guidance whatsoever, not only would he probably be far better than me, he might be actually getting some college offers. This is a kid that has unlimited potential, but because of the situation he comes from, that's not being recognized. And so my thing is, JT, it's increasing access to the sport that is key to building a culture from the bottom up. Is that necessarily good for business? Probably not. But that, in my mind, is what USA Soccer needs to be doing. Okay, the problem is that the sport itself it's like a tennis club in the United States. Your pocketbooks, as I said earlier, get you farther. And that is 100% the truth. And I find it amazing how many people back us up on that point anytime we post about this on our social media platforms, because everybody believes this to be true. You know, it's high school is not paid attention to. You have to be on this certain club to get noticed. Big American sports focus on those lower levels. There's a culture of basketball in high school. There's a culture of little league and baseball that feeds into high school. There's a culture of, again, high school football. Not that everybody's treated the same. I just talked about the team that I used to play against, but it is so specialized in the United States, and we're scouting kids so young that we're getting lost in all of this. We're selling parents on a dream that is not being recognized because we realize they have the means to be able to give us what we want. It just seems so backwards. All of it seems so backwards.
I want to add something. I started looking through high school recruits from the state of Michigan in football. Yeah, I guess I was thinking King and Cass Tech typically don't win state championships, and the private schools do. So I was wrong on that. Most of those Detroit kids somehow get to those private schools. But in terms of pay to play, so I played travel AAU basketball, and I also played travel soccer. And I will tell you, based on my parents' reactions to the sports, and when they saw the initial fee, basketball was a lot cheaper than it was in terms of soccer. And I think in terms of soccer, again, I think this World Cup is going to do worlds for the game of soccer. Whether the price comes down for these things, we have to wait and see. And I think there's definitely a culture here that's growing, that's starting to grow here. But if we look at a pay to play, high school's not getting, if you're playing in high school for 4 years, you are not necessarily going to get looks to get in the top colleges. Those players are coming from the academies. That's just the way that it is. High school's not getting in, and I played at
what? I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
To get into college, to play college soccer, they're looking at the academies or the ECNL, which, again, I don't know what is the higher nowadays, but they're looking at the academies and the ECNL teams here in America. They're not looking at high school recruits. High school players can play at an NAIA, a Division III. They can, and I've seen people do it. Some of my teammates did the same thing, but most of them are not playing at high school compared to football, basketball. They're just playing high school sports, and that's where they're getting the looks from. That's just the way it is. And in terms of soccer, if you want to play at those academies, you have to pay a hefty fee, and that doesn't even account for the travel. That doesn't account for the jerseys. It doesn't account for the hotels. And as a society, that's just kind of the way that it is these people need to make money. The coverage isn't there for these high school soccer games. It's not there for these academy games. And we are so used to the high schools producing where you come from. They're producing where you get your looks from. And in terms of soccer, that just doesn't happen. And then you look at basketball, which I was able to play travel basketball, and I didn't play many minutes because not many 5'7" white kids are going to be out there playing at a travel basketball team and getting many minutes. I'll tell you that right now. But again, that's a lot cheaper for travel basketball compared to it is for travel soccer. I'm hoping somehow that this World Cup can create such a buzz around here. Again, look at the last time we had the Men's World Cup here. It created the MLS. And I'm not saying we're going to get a whole new league because of it, but to just think that, all this will happen, more people will want to play the game of soccer. Maybe some big investor will want to invest in some sort of youth system or something like that, and that brings down the cost, because if you bring down the cost of these high levels and just the exposure to it, you're growing that nucleus of players that want to eventually play soccer, and again, we as ourselves hurt in this country because we have so many different sport options compared to Europe, compared to South America, compared to Africa. So again, that we're behind the 8 ball regardless of what happens because we're so good at basketball, we're so good at baseball, and we're so good at football.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot to unpack there. First and foremost, when it comes to what's going to happen here in the World Cup, is as optimistic as you sound, or maybe it's only going to drive the price up. Right now, we're not a society that's going to use this as a driving factor to reduce cost. It's going to be used as a catalyst to increase opportunity and to increase cost. I think that's most important because that's how this works. Look at the way the pricing of tickets is. That's for example, we live in a capitalistic country, and that's all. There's pluses and minuses to that. You're going to see the cost of playing go up, and that's what's going to happen. That first and foremost. Number two, I would agree with you to an extent about the academy and ECNL, about those are hotbeds for where college coaches do a lot of their recruitment. Okay. But to be fair, the ID camps have become another major place for players to be identified. And you hear it all across this country now. Coaches are inviting these kids in as 15 and 16-year-olds to their ID camps, and they're finding them there. And you know what? That's
another money grab, though, because you're paying hundreds of dollars to be there.
Absolutely. But that, again, allows the player who maybe isn't playing in the ECNL, the player who isn't playing in the academy, to be seen. And so I think that that's an important thing to talk about because it's true. We just heard Andy Stutes talk about it here on the I Hate Soccer. Hey, ID Camps is a place where I can find players. The biggest thing is this. If we're talking about comparing other sports, okay, true soccer players, the ones that are going to be playing at the next level, you can't even identify that they're even a potential for you and your program until they're at least 16 years old. And the reason why I say that is because, again, there's so much that happens in development from the time that you're 13 to 16 that it's really hard to measure. In football, you only can start seeing a player in middle school. And again, there could be some really great athletes out there who have that raw ability that you hear, oh my God, they've been picked as a whatever. Yeah, sure. That's all theatrical. That's all whatever. It's not, you can't sign a player at 13 years old. That's nonsense. So it's just like we found a player and theatrical, but you can't actually select a potential college football player until their junior season. And they, again, the hotbed is in middle school and in high school for those players. But again, from a developmental standpoint, those players can't even really develop until they get to high school. In football, I mean, you can be in middle school all day long, but let's be honest. I mean, the real training, the real growth happens from that freshman year to a senior, and that's it. And so, and you'll even see some players who didn't even play their freshman and sophomore years and excel at football in their junior and senior years. And so, but soccer is completely different. Soccer, it is more specialized. There is more training that has to go into a player's understanding of the game because a football player has to know a play in an 8-second interval. A soccer player has to know the whole field in a 45-minute interval and then a break for 45 minutes. So it's like they have to understand the game in a completely different way. And there's lots of mistakes happen in a soccer environment, which we know. But over time and experience on the field in a specific role helps you understand the importance of your role and the importance of your teammates' roles. And so that's why in football, 8 seconds, if you know your play, a whole other batch of players can come in who know the next play. You're not even on the field for the next play. So you have to understand your role and the play that you're part of in football, but you don't have to understand everybody else's role on the next play. You know what I mean? If you're not playing it, you know what I mean? So it can be somewhat compartmentalized. That is not the case in soccer. You have to know everything. And I think that's you have to know. You have to understand what a center back's role is in a four-back system. You have to understand it. If you're not, you can't play. You have to understand what the holding midfielder's role is. Because, again, if you're not playing with them, you aren't going to know. And so I think it's a really important thing to acknowledge. But, again, there's a lot to unpack in this whole thing. And we're not going to solve it on this conversation this morning. But what I think is most important is that if we're looking to find that diamond in the rough, And we've talked about this before, Nathan, me and you, and in previous shows, probably half a dozen times. The next Christian Pulisic, the next Lionel Messi is not paying $7,000 a year in the academy. It's not happening. The player that you're looking for is right now in Pontiac, Michigan. They might even be in Compton, LA. Compton. They might be in Compton. They might be somewhere in their backyard right now, kicking around a sock in their backyard for all we know. And that's where they are. They have no money, they have no resources, and they need someone to help them get from point A to point B to a training session to learn how to play a part of a team. That player who is playing for something, because let's be honest, there is not a single player in the United States right now who is paying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $7,000 a year, $12,000, $15,000 a year. That's playing for anything. They're not playing for anything. The player who comes from Cass Tech is playing for everything.
Yeah.
The player coming from, King is playing for everything. It is their ticket out of whatever world they're currently in. It is their one-way ticket to a new life. And when you're talking about that, that is tremendously different than a player who comes from something and has nothing to play for other than I love the game. I love it. I just love great. I'm glad to love it. But for you, it's not just about love. It's about work. It's about toughness. It's about grit. It's about survivability. All those things you can't teach and come from an instillment that's there because of the foundation in which you were raised on. And so we need players who are coming from that environment.
Yeah.
I'm
And for whatever it's worth,
we don't necessarily need
for
to
whatever
see
it's worth, very quickly, Ryan, before you butt in here, that we're seeing this transition in the NBA too, and we're seeing a lot of people talking about that. We're getting more and more players from the AAU circuit who have the means, who had the means growing up, and parents who were able to put them through all that. And so there's a little bit of a mentality shift in the NBA, and I think that's why it's for a lot of fans who have been diehard fans of that league for so long, we're getting a little more turned off by it. It's because of that reason alone, because it's also kind of getting that way in basketball too. So I think it is interesting to point out, it's not just soccer, but again, we're talking about this specifically here today. But no, I agree with you. Those kids they play for something different. I even see it in baseball too. I mean, they're playing to get their family out of the ghetto. They're playing to get their family out of this neighborhood or whatever it may be. Now, mind you, they're coming over here to the United States. A lot of them. The American players are pretty well set up. Again, like baseball, there's a lot of means, there's a lot of money out there. But those are the kids that they just have it's just something extra to them. But anyways, Ryan, go ahead.
again, AAU is also ruining basketball. I just want to put that out there. But
Yeah, I'd agree.
I would also every player, every professional athlete, and I know it gives them. Not every single player is coming from the ghetto. Not every professional athlete is coming from the ghetto. Do we really think Aiden Hutchinson was coming from the ghetto? No, he wasn't.
We're
Do we
not
really
saying
think
every
Jared Goff
single
was
one
doing
of
it?
them, dude.
No, he wasn't. It definitely helps certain players, but there's also players that are coming from the poorer areas that don't ultimately make it professional. There's also some. It's what's up here. It doesn't matter what background you come from. It doesn't.
But
again, that can
increasing access to the sport is important.
I think it's important to say the following. Okay, and I don't disagree with you, Ryan. But your specialized positions, your quarterback, right? That quarterback role, a good chunk of quarterbacks are coming from an affluent environment. A good chunk of them. I'm not saying all of them, but a good chunk of them are. Right,
No,
again, I'm just look. You just mentioned Jared Goff. You mentioned Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson is in a very specialized role. Not, again, he is maybe a different character in this whole conversation. But I think the point that we're making here is this: there are players out there that come from an environment in which they, because of their current socioeconomic situations, are given opportunities that otherwise would not be given, and they also don't have to work as hard maybe as a player who is coming from an environment that they don't have that same economic background. It is 100%. Maybe I can't say 100%. 99% the case,
Like
that there are players out there that experience that. And again, it's not in all environments. It's just saying There are, and what do we need more of in this country? We need more players, more athletes to have more access to getting the opportunity to be in a situation like a Christian Pulisic, like even like a Testament, right? Like a number of these players on this U.S. men's national team roster, but they aren't because they're never going to be seen.
This entire conversation, in my opinion, can be summed up in one way. Increasing access to the sport increases the sport's popularity, which increases the culture, which increases talent acquisition, and maybe we start recognizing some players who have a lot of potential who just don't have the means. Like that's the point of what we're saying here. We're not saying everybody's coming from bad situations.
No.
But a lot of the greats do. A lot of the greats do.
And I do think there's something to be said about, again, that mix of player being in the mix. Like Luna. Luna's a perfect example. I don't know Luna's socioeconomic background, but the type of player that Luna is, not from the talent standpoint, but the intangibles that we love about Luna is what this U.S. men's national team needs more of, not less. And where do you find that kind of a player? That's a scrappy player who's probably throughout his life been told that he's not good enough, been told that he has to work harder than everybody else, probably coming from different things. And again, you think about that and say, that's why a player is like that. Over time, they are building up this foundation of grit that comes from their past. And maybe they're born that, maybe it's a foundation with parents and things like that, but we need more players like Luna who also happen to have the characteristics that we need to win soccer games on the talent level. They're hard to come by.
I'm going to disagree with that. Again, the socioeconomic, yes, it helps players. But all that matters is up here. You can come from a somewhat comfortable situation and beat out someone from a socioeconomic background, and you can have the same access. All that matters is what's up here. Luna, again, it's a good story, and that's what a lot of us like, is that good grit story. That's why we like the David Montgomery story so much. And again, so much credit to David Montgomery, but what was different was up here. And he was like, all right, let's figure how it is. There's lots of players that come from tough backgrounds that get to college and their head is not in the right space, and they do a whole bunch of different things. The economic background thing does not always play a factor. All that we need up here is smart players, and we need dogs that are up here. Again, the economic background does not matter. Did Pulisic come from a tough background? No, not really. Did Gio Reyna? No, not really. Did Tyler Adams? No, not really. It was all up
it doesn't
here.
matter.
It
doesn't matter though if you don't have access to opportunities.
Yeah,
if your window is this big, it doesn't matter what your mentality
and I understand
is.
what you guys are saying, and all we want is the same access of players, or what we want is these players to have the same access. But all that matters is a mentality person that can get the access, and that's all that completely matters. Whether they're poor, whether they're rich, they can have the same access. All that matters is what's up here. All that matters is, all right, we're going to beat out the next person in front of me.
That's the point of what we're saying.
Is.
They don't have the same access.
Yeah, I think that's what we're trying to say. They don't have the same access, number one. And then number two, I think you're missing a point here, which is really important, is that the player who, and I'll give you a perfect example. I grew up in Troy. And so for me, I never had to worry about the gear. I never had to worry about the cleats. I never had to worry about travel. I never had to worry about anything. It never became a thought process for me. I never, ever thought about it. It never came up. And I would imagine, again, at some point in time when you get to an age, and my age for me was 13 years old, 13, 14, where my parents said, John, you have to make a choice. It's travel baseball or it's travel soccer. I had to make a choice. I could no longer do both. And so I chose soccer. Soccer was my path. That's where I wanted to go with it. And that's what I did. And so, and then once I made that, again, I never once thought, if I needed goalkeeper gloves, I got them. If I needed a new pair of cleats, I got them. Okay? But there are players out there. And again, as someone who coached, I coached in an affluent area in Birmingham. And I actually coached in an area where a half of my team was affluent and the other half was dirt poor. And so I can tell you the conversations that I had to have with players because they didn't have what they needed to be successful. That wears on a player. It wears on a human being. If you are thinking about your teammates right now and they have everything and you have nothing, that wears on you. And so while I agree that while social economics are a deal and they can be a factor, but the mentality is different. I'm telling you that you're going to be a tougher player knowing that you had to work a little harder, knowing that your parents didn't have everything to support you because they couldn't, and you had to do things differently in order to get to where you want to go. That mentality cannot be taught to someone who already has it.
Like
so I'm telling you that right now. It can't be taught, man. It's just not a thing. And so I agree that not all socioeconomic issues and all these things that we talked about are going to create the best players or lack of players. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the player who is coming from nothing, who has nothing, is going to be a completely different mindset player than that of someone coming from an affluent situation or a kid who had never had to think about it. And that's a very important delineation because, again, that they are different. Doesn't mean they're all going to be successful. Doesn't mean that. Just means they're a different player. And it's okay.
I'm going to say this, dude. I had two high school teammates that same area as me. And they were different up here than I was. Again, they were a comfortable situation, but they're the ones that are playing fourth division overseas in Germany right now. Like, there's the background thing. It does play a factor to some point, but as long as this is fine, that's the only thing that matters because you are working hard regardless of what the background is. And again, I agree to you to some point of, yeah, the person that doesn't have it all, that's gonna make and create a certain type of player, but that's not always the case. And to say that we need more players like that in the men's national team, that doesn't make sense to me at all. We just need dogs with the mentality that they're going to beat the next person. They're going to continue to climb that ladder, whether that's with the national team or whether that's with their club team. That's what we need. That's exactly what we need. Regardless of what their background, it does not matter to me. As long as we have some dogs that are there to grind out results, that have the grit, that are playing for each other, that's what I need.
Why do you think Jurgen Klopp even said this?
Why do I think that?
Yeah, why do you think he said it?
Because the culture in Germany is different than the culture is here?
No. He said it because he knows that we're not getting the best players. That's why he said it. That's without saying it. That's why he said it. We're not getting the best players because they're not currently paying to be in the environment. I mean, Ryan,
but
that's clear.
we can expand the player pool. But again, this country we're good at too many things, and soccer is considered a soft sport. And yes, it is.
We have more players playing soccer today than we've ever had in the history of our country. Period.
Yeah.
It's the number one travel sport.
We can
in the country.
expand the access to more players, but that's not necessarily going to breed out the results. It's not.
Yes, it will. Absolutely will. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if we somehow get to Saquon Barkley before he decides to play football, that's going to change the trajectory of this men's national
team. If we can somehow find a way to find a Messi who's right now messing around in the
is that pun intended?
No pun intended, right? In Little Cuba in Florida right now. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or in Pontiac, Michigan, where there's players who don't have any access to cars. Their parents work 6 jobs. They're riding the bus. They barely make it to high school. That kid who loves soccer, can't play travel soccer, will never play soccer at the highest level because he's never had the opportunity. Period. And
I remember Bianca talking about how in Brazil, like the kids would play at like parks, like in bare feet and just like in backfields and stuff like that. It's like that's where the game, it's where it was born, and that's where it's bred. That's where you get it's where you get some of your greats. And honestly, like there are kids out there who are weighing what sport they're going to play, what sport they want to continue with. Like kind of like what you talked about, JT. What direction are you going to go? You can play baseball, you can play soccer, you can do this, you can do that. Well, which one's going to cost us more money? I guarantee you it's probably soccer. 99 times out of 100, it's probably soccer that's going to hurt your pocketbooks a lot more than any other sport because the other sports are actually available and they're prioritized at different levels. So, I 100% would help. And that is the reason why I said it.
Yeah. Again, Jurgen Klopp is saying this because it's prohibitive. It is prohibitive of finding talent. And again, it's not. We're not going to say it's going to like solve the problem overnight, but if you took away or if you created an environment where, and I even say this, is so much of it as a money issue? Is it about access to maybe even travel, right? Because again, a kid in Pontiac might be able to get a grant to go play for free, but they don't have a ride. And so, how are they going to get there? So there's a number of things that have to happen in order to solve this problem. But Jurgen Klopp is spot on. If we want to field the best U.S. men's national team, U.S. women's national team available, we need to find players who would not otherwise be able to be there because it costs too much, period. And it's true. And when you find that player, they are going to be a different type of player than the player who's currently paying to play. And it's a great point. I know we kind of got into this one. I expected it to kind of happen this way. We can dive into the Matt Crocker quote tomorrow for the sake of time. Let's get into our question of the day. I know we didn't get a chance to do another commercial. And Ryan, you're young. You don't understand this quite yet. One day you will.
I mean, if hold on, let me get an example real quick. Just an example real quick. If the type of player that you guys are describing is Clint Dempsey, so is that what you guys want? Is a whole bunch of Clint Dempseys?
I mean, I want a whole bunch of players who didn't have, who otherwise wouldn't have had the opportunity. Yeah, we're okay. Now we're back.
Oh. Okay.
We were cutting out for a second there.
Yeah.
We're back. But if the Clint Dempsey type of player, then why did we win more stuff?
No, I think you're missing the point.
Yeah, it's one guy. What are you talking about?
One player in there. He still had to pay.
But he was going to be out of the mix because of cost and access.
Yeah, but
okay.
he didn't. He still played. He still paid. You're talking about a player who happened to have not as much money as everybody else, but still had enough money to do it. There are players out there that have zero money and have zero anything and still can't do it. And that's the player we're talking. That's what Jurgen Klopp is talking about. He's not talking about Clint Dempsey player. He's talking about the.
Yes, he is. He is talking about the Clint Dempsey type of player. We're talking about access. He was not going to have access to it. He was not.
But he did have access to it.
He was not originally. He was not going to have access to it until his sister unexpectedly passed away, and that's sad to say. That's exactly what was going to happen. But anyway, I literally just brought that point up because the question of the day did not fit at all what was going on today, and I was saving it for tomorrow. So I just needed you guys to babble on for a little bit. That's the sole reason why I brought that up. But question of the day presented to you by Salt Athletic, official sponsor of us here at the National Soccer Network. Use promo code NSN15 to save 15% off. Scan that QR code or visit saltathletic.com. Today, again, this question came out about 30 seconds ago. Couldn't come up with one on the spot because the question tomorrow is based off of tomorrow. So we'll save that. But question of the day. Do the Tigers win tonight?
Jeez, Pete. He likes to keep asking these Tigers questions.
Well, again, the question of the day is fixated on tomorrow, and I can't really put the question of the day that has nothing to do with the discussion that we're going to have tomorrow again today, so it's just a complete wash.
Absolutely, they're going to win. They're going to win.
No,
they're going to win
not.
big. They're going to win
No,
big.
they're
They're going to
not.
win
They
big.
can't
They're going to go to. They're going to win again. They're going to win the whole damn thing. It happens starts tonight. Thank you.
They're not going to win.
I love it.
They're
Hell
winning
yeah,
tonight, my
let's
guy.
go.
They're winning.
Just a ray of positivity over here. First of all, I look like I'm on the surface of the sun. I got to figure out how to block out sunlight. It's like, oh. Anyways, man, this team is the most confusing baseball team I've ever seen in my life. There is no team that is more confusing to me ever than this Tigers team, and they lean into pitching chaos. But I mean, they can't hit the ball, but sometimes they do hit the ball. So, are they going to get a grinded out win? I have no idea. Give me the Tigers to win tonight, and then probably lose in pathetic fashion in Game 5, and then we'll.
They're straight up losing. This team's cooked. Yeah. I'm just gonna say right now, team's cooked.
We kept saying that. We said that against Cleveland, so I don't know. They found a way to stumble into.
And we blew a 15.5 game lead. I got a question for you after the show, Nate, because I was frustrated with one of my friends. I'll have a question for you after the show because this isn't a Tiger podcast. But there's your question of the day.
Well, there you go.
All right. Fair enough.
All right. Well, that wraps up today's show. We will dive into more of this conversation tomorrow, along with what Matt Crocker had to say in regards to is winning the only thing that matters. And I think these two go hand in hand because if you're paying a shit ton of money to be part of a team, playing time and winning truly do matter. And so we will dive into that and so much more here on tomorrow's episode number 176. Be back at it again here tomorrow. That's Nathan Wengler. That's Ryan Glinsky. I'm Jonathan Turner. Be back here tomorrow morning. Same time, same place, right here on Inside the Game. From the biggest matches to the hottest takes, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wengler bring you the stories, the analysis, and the edge you won't get anywhere else. Streaming live weekdays at 9 a.m. on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all major platforms. No filters, no fluff, just real talk, real soccer. This is Inside the Game.